Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Basketball Champions League Final Late preview show. My name is Dionis Sarvadinos from Eurohoops.net. I'm joined by Alex Madrid all the way from Spain. Alex, hello, good morning. How are you?
Hi, you're well dressed for the occasion. There's a final tomorrow. You are well dressed.
Had to, because tomorrow is the final. Yeah.
Yeah, and this incredible tournament comes to an end. We saw a lot of emotion, a lot of exciting games. Probably not as tight as we expected, but that's why the two best teams on the tournament are in the final.
Yeah, of course. So obviously tomorrow's final will be an interesting one because, as you said, and as Adonis Strogilakis yesterday also mentioned, the two best teams, without a doubt, given how the circumstances and how the two games of each team played out, advanced to the final. They're going to face each other tomorrow at 8 o'clock local time. AEK against San Pablo Burgos. Earlier, we have Dijon facing Saragossa for the third place game. But Alex, let's get into it a little bit and talk about the final. What are you expecting? Even though we briefly touched upon that yesterday's show, but today's show is basically a preview for tomorrow's final.
Well, I see that tomorrow's final it's something like a team that it has probably the obligation to win it against a dream from a team that it's well, I won't say a brand new club, but almost. And it's their first game, the first final game in an European competition, while AEK has already done it, also in the BCL where they won it a couple of years ago. So that's it. The fight between a big and a small team that already became a good one.
Mm-hmm. Although both players and coaches, the ones that spoke earlier in the press conference, and we're going to watch that in a little while. Both Vitor Benite and Nico Zissis obviously have tremendous respect for each other and the teams. And I think that it's because of the two performances that San Pablo Burgos made in this tournament, I think that the final is not so much of an underdog facing a heavy favorite. I have the feeling that it's going to be a relatively close game.
Yeah, sometimes it's even a problem when you reach a final winning games by a large margin, because sometimes you feel that probably you are in best shape, but both teams did it. And I think it's incredible, but they are in great shape. They are showing an incredible basketball, scoring a lot of points, running the floor. Oh no, I'm really amazed with the performances from both teams.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned, the fact that both teams will be fully rested, fully at full force for that final, will make the final even more exciting. To me, I have four guys that I've noted down, and I really expect big things from them. Two from each team. Obviously, Keith Langford and Tyrese Rice. That 1-2 punch from Mike is deadly. I think it's probably the best backcourt in the whole competition. If Tyrese Rice actually signs that contract extension and continues to play for the rest of the season, they will probably be the best backcourt in the competition. And Vitor Benite and Alex Renfro, I think that they can give them some problems, at least offensively.
Well, I'm going to contradict you a little bit. I'm going with Dejan Kravic, probably one of the backcourt guys, probably Vitor Benite. I like him really much, along with Dejan Kravic, because I feel that probably Kravic is the different guy. We probably the best scorers, the best guys in AEK are the front court, and Dejan Kravic may be the difference on that game. Of course, Tyrese Rice and Kate Lanford has a lot of quality, a lot of points in their hands, and it's amazing the way they are playing. But that's why I mentioned Dejan Kravic. He's a fantastic center. We saw him playing really well during the quarterfinals. In the semifinals, he had problems to get rhythm, but I feel that with so many talented players in the backcourt, maybe he can make the difference.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. It's going to be a pretty exciting game. But what's your biggest takeaway so far from the tournament and from those two teams in particular?
Well, the feel I'm having, it's probably we lost games. We should have at least 2 or 3 games in playoff in the quarterfinals, but instead we won with emotion. We won with this great tournament, and it is true that there are 2 teams that have been dominating their games, the competition. Everybody is talking about them. And in a way or another, it is true that, well, for example, I guess in Greece, it's, I don't know if headlines in newspapers, but almost, because they are playing at home and it's a very important tournament for them. And here in Spain, everybody is talking about Burgos because they are making history.
Yeah, no, I think that's the expectation that they had set for themselves, and the fans have set for the team even before the start of the tournament. It's going to be championship or bust. Adonis yesterday also made that very clear. He said that if they in fact lose that final, it's going to be a failure for them.
Well, Dionys, you are talking about the fans. This is important. We saw the OACA with no fans, which is sad, of course, but we know the situation. But probably if we had fans to next Sunday, probably we'll see 2 of the best crowds in Europe. It's amazing how AEK fans supported them during the Final Four in 2018, and it's incredible how Burgos managed to be the best crowd for sure in Spain, and probably one of the best in Europe.
One last question before we actually watch some of the press conference highlights that Juan Penaroya, Vidor Benite, Ilias Papatheodoru, Nikos Zissis, and the Basketball Champions League CEO Patrick Komninos talked earlier about the whole competition and the final, is the fact that both teams, in my opinion, are really, really experienced. Obviously, AEK even more, and they have some players that have played in major tournaments over in Europe and have won many titles in their career. But at the same time, also, Burgos have some really interesting and talented and experienced players, such as Vidor Benitez, such as Omar Cook, who I think are really going to play an important role mentally for their respective teams in the final, which is an elimination game, which is a final, a trophy on the line.
Well, first of all, we have to say that both teams are really hungry, and of course they are experienced. We saw AEK probably creating a squad that was focused on this tournament, and in another way, Burgos signed a lot of experienced players. They are much older than the past season, but also I think that they are a better squad. Probably not much better, but we have seen that they are a better team, and that's key. Both teams signed veteran players to probably be more focused in this type of games.
Let's go ahead and watch some of the highlights from the press conference that took place earlier today, and we're going to be joined by Josh Bett, Basketball Champions League commentator, later, so that we can discuss about that and the final.
As this is a social distance press conference, there is no members of the media physically present in the room. We will be taking questions through our WhatsApp group throughout the course of this press conference. But first, let us start with an opening statement from each one of you. Victor, congratulations once again for making it to the final. You have been with the club now for a while. This is not your first season. Can you please describe what it means for the city of Burgos and for the club, for this team to have made it all the way to the final in what is the very first participation in a European competition?
First, thank you, and I think it's an amazing history for the club because it's such a young club. Now they start not more than 5 years ago, and they managed to have one of the biggest and most amazing fans in Europe. The whole city is in love with the club, with basketball. So it's not only about the game itself, but how it's building on young kids in the city and how is making everybody proud, of the city and of the team. So I think it would be, if we manage to win it, it would be a dream come true for the whole city and the whole club. We hope we can give them this joy.
Coach, you've avoided so far to ever put the label of the favorite on your team, but I guess now it's the time to assume the responsibility that the host usually has of being the overwhelming favorite. Do you accept that, or do you think that the final will be a 50-50 game?
So first of all, we are happy to be here. Tomorrow is a big game for us. It's a big challenge for us. The expectation for the beginning, it's too high. It was high for us. But we know we have to play against a great team, and they know how to play. They have experience. They have chemistry, and it will be for sure difficult game and tough game. We must prepare the team for a big battle.
Coach, San Pablo Burgos brought you in the summer of 2019, gave you the team because they wanted to take a further step to grow further as a club and as a team. A year, 13 months later, after you arrived at this club, how personally, on a personal level, how happy are you with the progress you and the team have had together?
Okay. First, I think it's the moment to remember the players last year helped us who play tomorrow the final. Ferran Basas, Bruno Fittipaldo, Tokotó, Javi Vega, the captain, Augusto Lima, Goran Dragic y Stevic. No me dejo ninguno, ¿no? Clark. And El Clark, sorry. It's important for us. And tomorrow for us is amazing game. It's a huge challenge for us, but we know tomorrow we'll play with a great team, with a great coach. We have a lot players with a lot of experience in the first European competitions, in the Final Fours, in the most important games in the first competition. But I think when I see my players tomorrow, my players we will ready to play the final and play a good game.
For Ionikos, it was a weird pre-season and the training camps were short. Then you played a couple of games and didn't look that good. But last night everything looked amazing. Was that the game to kind of give you a picture of what Ike could look like and be dominant in all competition it plays in 2020 and 2021?
We don't think anything else besides the tomorrow's game. The fact that we play an excellent game yesterday doesn't count, doesn't matter. If we would win by one and qualify to the final, we would be same happy. Of course, let's say it's easy to understand that the way we played both games, except the first 5 minutes of the first game, is the way that we want to play as a team, offensively and defensively. but tomorrow is a different game, it's a final. You know, having the experience to play in many of them, it's one game and anything can happen. Many times game plans go out of the window. It's the personality of the players, who wants it more, who might be more lucky, who will get one rebound, one turnover, one made shot might decide the game. So we have to be ready for every scenario and to understand, to embrace that we are the favorites. This is how it is. But we have a big respect, as I said before, for this opponent, for this coach, and having the experience of playing 2 times against them. I believe it's a Spanish team that like to run, but also at the same time they are tougher from the average Spanish team. So it's going to be a big battle.
CEO Patrick Komnenos. As all of you know, due to the circumstances, this is a socially distanced media roundtable, which means that there is no media representatives physically present here in the room with us. So we are receiving questions from the accredited media to the event through our WhatsApp group. Welcome, Mr. Komnenos. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the questions of the accredited media at this very particular media roundtable that you're organizing here. Can I please ask you for an opening statement and your impression so far of this historic, one way or the other, final 8 of the Basketball Champions League 2019-2020?
First of all, it's my pleasure to be here. As rightly said, in unique circumstances, and I think it is one adjective that characterizes this event and what we have all lived over the last months has been unique, has been exceptional, has been once in a lifetime event with the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on not just the BCL but the entire sports industry. So we have been approaching this event in a committed way to finish it, to conclude the season, to offer to all clubs the opportunity to be crowned as champion of the 2019-2020 season. And we do hope that on Monday morning, when the event is behind us, when everything is concluded, we would be in a position to still be talking about a unique, about an exceptional event, but for all the right reasons linked to the organization and to the delivery. So we are 75% of the way into the conclusion. We still have 2 games left, but obviously the 2 most important games as the gold, silver and bronze medals are on the line. So we still have a long way ahead of us in terms of what needs to be delivered, but so far I have to say that the feedback that I receive, because at the end of the day our own satisfaction or our own impressions are directly linked to what we receive from our stakeholders, whether these are the clubs or other entities directly involved in the competition. And so far we have received very positive feedback. So we treat this again with an element of great pleasure, but aware that we still have 2 very important games to deliver tomorrow.
That was these 2 players and these 2 great coaches that are going to take place in tomorrow's final. Alex, let me start with the comment that Nikos Zisis made. And he said that even if they played an amazing game yesterday, it doesn't count. Even if they had won by only 1 point, they still would have qualified to the final, and that's all that matters. So do you think that the fact that I played 2 incredible games matters in the final, or no?
Well, as I told you before, I feel that sometimes when you reach a final winning all the games by a large margin, it's even a bad thing, because you can feel really comfortable with that leads, with that games, and you establish your winning mentality. But sometimes it doesn't You during the games you have to change your mind. You have to see. You have to stay humble and be careful with that good games that you had before.
What did you make of San Pablo Burgos' comment? Because we were talking earlier about the fact that it was a historic season so far for them, while Ike is used to getting to the finals and competing for a trophy.
Well, same for they said probably the same that we said for. It's an historical night for them. They have nothing to lose against Ike. They made an incredible tournament, and now they want to be crowned winning the final, which is obviously not easy. But they are in the verge to making history for the club, which is was created a couple of years ago. Well, not a couple of years ago, but no long ago.
Do you think that what Coach Ilias Papatheodorou said, that even if they are one of the most talented teams, it's not enough, and everything has to click in order for them to win the trophy? While of course they have tremendous respect, the two coaches for each other. Juan Benaroya said some really interesting and great things about Ike, while Ilias Papatheodorou also returned the favor and talked about how San Pablo Burgos is one excellent coached team and a really difficult opponent in the final.
Well, we all know how coaches approach these tournaments. They don't like to make too many comments one day ahead of the big final. They want to stay humble. Don't say anything that can go against them. For example, I see ourselves as favorite. You won't see a coach saying that. For example, yesterday the Jones coach started to laugh when they asked him if they were going to be favorites if they reach the final. No one will say that they are favorite. They will have the control of the game. You won't listen anything like that. So.
Yes. Josh, can you hear us now?
Yeah, perfectly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you do us a favor and change your phone because you have it on lock mode so that we can see you clearly? Just like that.
Yep.
No, if you can change it with a lock, you have it locked. I think you have it locked, and it's better if you change it. We were talking with Alex about.
How do you lock it?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
What do you mean lock, sir? I can't.
It's okay. It's okay. We can see you right now.
Okay, cool. Yep.
We were talking with Alex about the two teams, obviously the final, and what are your first thoughts and expectations about tomorrow's final? And we're gonna get into your thoughts about the players and the coaches and what they said in the press conference earlier.
Well, this is going to be history made today, because either way, we're going to have a new champion of the Basketball Champions League, or we're going to have the first team ever to win 2 championships, and that of Ike. I think these two teams really match up very well with each other. It's going to be predominantly played from the backcourt with players such as Keith Langford, Thaddeus McFadden, not to mention for San Pablo Burgos. But it's a very tough one to call. If you look at the way Ike's playing, they're definitely playing more dominant basketball. But San Pablo Burgos have looked very strong ever since they've come back, even from the bubble that they had in the ACB. And the way that they've been playing so far here in the Final 8, they're playing with a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of experience on that team. Kravic, not to mention Vita Benite, he's played in the Final 4. So I think these two teams match up very well with each other.
Well, I was talking maybe mainly about Kravic, because I see him that a different guy. Both teams have a lot of quality in the backcourt players, but probably Kravic is the one different in this game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Kravic for me, where he's going to match up very well, and the play that I'm looking forward to is watching him go up against players such as Chrissy Kopoulis and Yannick Moreira. Him and Yannick Moreira, they won this championship, I think it was 2 seasons ago when they were playing in Bologna. So there's a lot of experience what these players give, but I think, we talk a lot about Langford, we talk a lot about Benite and Thaddeus McFadden, but Kravic definitely, he is going to be the difference maker in this game for San Pablo Burgos.
Josh, we were discussing earlier off air and also yesterday in the previous shows both teams are fully rested, fully rested because obviously both games were relatively easy for both sides. And I think that that's going to play a role in the final for fans that actually want to watch exciting basketball.
No doubt about it. I mean, look, these two teams, there's nothing really that they can put in sort of their X's and O's and game plans. They've seen each other. They played each other in the regular season. They definitely watched each other over the last few days. It's really going to be a matter of who comes out well, who shoots the ball well from the perimeter. And as we said with players like Kravic and Christopoulos and Yannick Moreira, who really comes out on the big day. And it couldn't get any bigger than this because it's the final of the Basketball Champions League.
Well, I feel like both teams played incredible offensive basketball during these two games. But now, my guess to the final is that it's going to be more defensively, probably lower digits, 70, 60 points. Do you feel the same?
100%. Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's going to be a defensive, like you said, the battle of who's going to be much better in the man-to-man defense. I think the thing that San Pablo Burgos have to figure out is how do you contain Keith Langford, the MVP of this season. I mean, he's been phenomenal. You can't really stop him. You can only try to make life difficult for him. And personally, I would try and put Thaddeus McFadden on him. But at the end of the day, it's, as you mentioned, it's going to be who plays defensively best in this one. We'll probably see either a new champion or a two-time champion of the Basketball Champions League.
Mm-hmm. Josh, what did you make of the performances of both teams so far in the Basketball Champions League final late tournament? We know that AEK was considered a heavy favorite to win it all before even the start of the tournament, but San Pablo Burgos, in many people's eyes, was not even supposed to reach the Final Four.
That's the beauty of the Basketball Champions League. I mean, you look over the seasons, there's been a few teams that have made it to the Final Four that probably wouldn't have been favorites. But San Pablo Burgos, I'm not surprised because how they played in the regular season. Yes, we've seen some new faces come in the team, but this is a team that has a lot of options, a lot of depth. Not to mention, Vito Benite in the first game, I think it was in the quarterfinals, wasn't the go-to option. In the game last night, he had 25 points. He was unbelievable. But we've seen this from Vito Benite when he was playing for UCAM Murcia 2 years ago and being a big contribution for them making it to a Final Four and losing to AEK. I mean, who's to say that in the final it's going to be Thaddeus McFadden's night? Who's going to say it's not going to be Benite's night? There's a lot of options, a lot of depth in the team, a lot of people they can go to.
Talking about beauty, I feel that probably we didn't have the whole playoff picture with 3 games in the quarterfinals, but I also feel that we won on emotion because it seems like a super cup tournament like the ones that we have in February.
Absolutely. I mean, the only way that this game is going to sort of bring its flavor into is, like, as I said, history will be made today. This is a chance for both these two teams to make their legacy. San Pablo Burgos, they want to put their name on the map. They're a very young professional basketball team as opposed to other Spanish teams that we've seen in the Basketball Champions League. And for AEK, there's so much history you could talk about AEK. They want to bring another championship home. So, and it's going to mean a lot to both these fans. Athens is almost like the mecca for basketball in Europe, if you like, where San Pablo Burgos, they want to make sure that they give their fans in their city something to cheer about. So there'll be a lot of emotion reigning in this game.
Do you feel the pressure is on AEK because of all the things that you mentioned?
It's possible, but you know what? I think AEK is a team, more than any team in the Basketball Champions League, that knows how to deal with pressure. If you go back to the year when they won it in 2018, it was a 3-pointer from Dusan Shekota in the dying moments against Medi Bayreuth, and a result that went their favor in Venice that got them into the playoffs. They went and played Ira Nimburg, who back then were known as Chins Nimburg, and won on the buzzer beater. So if there's a team that knows how to deal with the pressure, it's AEK.
Can you tell us or talk about the chess game that we have on the benches with both coaches, probably 2 of the best in the competition?
Well, both coaches are very, very experienced. I think in terms of AEK coach, he was at PAOK for the last couple of seasons. He was in Kazakhstan before that. I think it's in their demeanor to be very sort of calm. You don't see them very animated on the sidelines, and I think that goes in their favor. I think definitely the way they're probably, what we see on the sidelines is probably different from what we see them in the change rooms and the practices. I'm sure they're finding their ways to motivate these players and really get them up. But to be honest, for a game like this, there's not much the coaches can extrinsically motivate these players. The players have to understand, I think they've got the motivation to know it's a championship game, and it's the legacy that they want to build for themselves as players, but also for their clubs.
Since you've been commentating Basketball Champions League games for quite a while now, and you pretty much cover the competition in more depth, and you analyze the game in more depth, What did you make of how the FIBA competition managed to pull off this tournament in Athens and create its own bubble, if you will? And and pretty much have it go all the way, finish early in October, and with a trophy on the line.
Well, I mean, it was great. I mean, they talked about this, I think, back in March, possibly. I can't remember when they made the announcement that the Final Eight was going to keep going. I mean, that's the ethos of the Basketball Champions League. You know, the delivery of the teams coming in is very high quality basketball. It's improved year after year. And I think you don't want to stop where it ended last season. I mean, the teams were on a roll. It was getting into some very competitive games going into the playoffs. The last game I covered was between Telecom Basketball and Ike, in which Keith Langford, you know, he put on a show in those two series. And it's great to see him back along with players such as Marcus Slaughter, Micholis as well. So, you know, you want to see those teams progress and to see where they've gone off. And I think it's fantastic that the Final Eight has come back. And I think it's only going to lead to bigger and better things when the season resumes for the following season of the Basketball Champions League.
I also feel, I'm sorry, Dimas.
Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead.
I also feel that this is a success, not only the way the Final Eight managed to end, but also that is the only European competition in basketball that managed to get a champion.
100%. That was very, very important as well because, you know, I think when the season stopped last year, you're right, it was very tough to sort of picture how things were going to plan out. But, you know, credit to the Basketball Champions League. They found a way. They created the bubble. And like you said, now we're watching top quality continental basketball right now here in Europe. And you're right, we'll finally have a champion of Europe.
Josh, I want to go back a little bit about tomorrow's final. Do you feel that these two teams are going to be favorites to win the whole competition next year also?
Well, that's a very tough question because you got to think Ike has been in the Basketball Champions League since the 2016-17 regular season. They've always been favorites. The first season was a little bit disappointing in the playoffs, but second season they put on a terrific showing going all the way and winning the championship. So they're always going to be favorites, Ike. I mean, that's just as long as they're in the competition, eyes are always going to be on who have they signed, who have they brought in, what lineups, what coaches have they got. So they'll always be in the lineup. I think San Pablo Burgos will be a favorite, you know, if they're back in the competition next year. I think they've proven themselves this season with the players they've got. And I think with this group of players they've got, there's no reason to say they can't be a contender next season. So for sure.
I think the reason I'm asking you, especially for Ike, is because we've seen that basically that they formed this team, especially for this year's competition, and especially for that tournament that take place in Athens, and that they want to reach. They want to reach the title and they want to get that trophy. So that's why I'm asking, because obviously they have some players that are relatively older. They have 8 guys over 30 years old. They have some contracts, especially in Tyrese Rice's case, where we don't know if he's going to continue playing this season or next season, however you want to call it. So that's why I'm asking, especially about Ike.
I think, I mean, when you talk about, you know, players who will be around next season, Ike will not have any issues attracting big names, you know, European, American. And the thing about, you know, such a great basketball country in Greece, there's a good natural selection of players you've got domestically as well. And when you're as big as a name as Ike, you know, players, you can draw the big players. You can always draw the names. And I think we've seen that year in year in the Basketball Champions League. It was Manny Harris in 2018. And look, it was Tyrese Rice that knocked him out of the Basketball Champions League in 2019. Now they've got him in. So Ike will have no problem getting big players to come in next season, whoever's in and whoever's out from this team.
I'm going to make the early question because we have to remember that tomorrow we also have the third and fourth place game. How do you face when you lose a semifinal, an important occasion like this? How do you face a third and fourth place? It's so hard. Do you feel it?
It's always tough. I mean, look, for teams that get to that semifinal, it is very, very tough when you know that you've lost it and you're not getting to the final. But, you know, for these players, for them, it's about pride. They've got to make sure they go out there. I mean, Zaragoza, have some very strong players, but JDA Dijon have been fantastic as well. And, you know, they'll want to make sure that for their last game here in the Basketball Champions League, that they really go out there and give everything, not only for themselves, but the fans back in France and back in Spain watching.
Because you have here they give you the bronze medal, so it's also an important matter.
100%. You know, I think along with the bronze medal, I mean, these are professional basketball players that are playing at elite level in France, Spain, not to mention right now in the Basketball Champions League. So they're going to want to make sure that they finish the season on a high note. and both teams will be looking to come back next season even stronger.
And then just one last question before we let you go. What are your expectations for tomorrow for both games, especially the big final that we are all expecting and anticipating?
Well, for Ike, it's going to be very interesting because you know one thing, the ball is going to be in the hands of Keith Langford. Keith Langford's going to want to go pick and roll with Yannick Herrera, and he's going to go pick and pop with Christopoulos. I think the problem that San Pablo Burgos have to figure out is, yes, they have to find a defensive matchup for Keith Langford, but they got to try and get the ball out of his hands as much as possible. And I think in the favor of Ike, when you've got a player like that, who is the most valuable player, regardless of how old he is, he's a fantastic player, is that he makes everyone else around him much better. For San Pablo Burgos, they got to get out in transition and play very high-tempo basketball with players such as Thaddeus McFadden and Vitor Benite. And, you know, this is the final game. It's all or nothing. You got to make sure that you have the best game of your life. It's a championship game. You want to take it back to Spain, or in the case of Ike, you want to win the second one.
Do you feel that Ike is the favorite?
I would say by the way they're playing, Ike is the favorite, but this is the Basketball Champions League. Nothing is predictable here. And you know what? There's nothing to say San Pablo Burgos cannot go there tomorrow and challenge Ike and take that championship home. So for me, this is a very unpredictable final.
Josh, thank you so much for joining us here in a preview of the final. I guess we'll talk to you soon, and have a good weekend and enjoy tomorrow's game.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you for having me. See you later.
Yep. Alex, that was Josh Bett, a famous commentator for the BCL competition. What I took away from what Josh said is basically how unpredictable that whole tournament has been throughout the season and throughout the last years. I don't expect that Sunday's game will be unpredictable. I'm predicting a very close game. But what are your expectations before we close out today's show?
Well, first of all, I expect that the game is not similar to the AIK semi-final, not just for the Spanish team, of course, but also because we want emotion. We want a game going to the line, and it is actually what I expect. If I remember what happened during the regular season, we saw Keith Langford scoring 30 points in Oaxaca against San Pablo Burgos. If I tell you the truth, I'm not expecting the MVP of the season making such an incredible performance also in the final. Probably he will go to 20 points, but I'm sure San Pablo Burgos will try to counter-arrest him. And as Josh said, it's going to be an important role in the final.
The last time that Ike was in the final, though, Kevin Panther went for 26 in 2018, which is a game high for BCL final history. So I think that anything can happen. I don't know if we're going to have a huge performance by an individual, but I think that the game will go down at least in the last quarter. I'm not sure if we're going to get a buzzer beater game winner type of shot down the stretch, but I think it's going to be relatively close.
Yeah, of course, because both teams also show that they never quit. They always try to fight for each ball. I'm sure that having this opportunity, for example, Anthony said yesterday that Tyrese Rice may be the first player to win the EuroLeague, EuroCup, and BCL. So there's a lot of important history in this game that each team will try to reach.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're going to let you go for today. We're going to close today's show. We're going to be here tomorrow after the final to talk about the last show of this year, at least of this season. Alex, thank you so much for joining me here in another live show, and I guess we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. I will try to come well dressed for the occasion, as you do, and we will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, have a great weekend, everyone, and enjoy tomorrow's game.